sebentar lagi, and then we can. Sabar
Ini
ya.
biarkan saja itu Kak, siapa tuh? Beta mute ya.
Apa Dek?
Beta mute Kak. Beta
Ya,
biarkan
sip,
ini
sip.
terus.
Sebentar ya, nanti Kairin kasih kode, terus nanti Ayah bisa. Oke, Ayah, we are ready to. Bentar. Wait a minute. Kita siap, Ayah. Oke, good. Oke, boleh admit, Ayah.
Oke Kak.
Oke.
Miss Irene, good morning.
Hi, Mr. David. Good morning.
Hi.
How are you, Mr. David? Are you doing
Okay.
well?
Yeah.
That's
I'm
good.
okay.
Oke, cool. Rekan-rekan, selamat datang yang sudah bergabung. Di sini sudah ada Mr. David, sudah ada beberapa teman-teman yang mendaftar, sudah gabung juga. Kita tunggu 2 menit lagi. We're gonna start in 2 minutes ya.
Oke.
Oke. Oke, mungkin sambil menunggu, rekan-rekan boleh perkenalkan diri. You can introduce yourself, memperkenalkan diri di chat box ya. Yang mungkin baru pertama kali ketemu Mr. David hari ini, boleh say hi, perkenalkan diri. Yang sudah pernah gabung di Teachnspire webinarnya juga boleh perkenalkan diri. Ya, boleh kabarin kita juga waktu itu yang terakhir sesi yang Bapak Ibu ikuti itu sesi apa, gitu ya. Supaya kita saling kenal. Oke, di sini sudah ada 14 orang. Kita masih menunggu setengahnya lagi dari rekan-rekan yang akan hadir. Oke. Mana nih Bapak Ibu, boleh kenalin diri, asalnya dari mana, ngajar kelas berapa. Ini apakah kali pertama rekan-rekan ketemu kita di Teachnspire atau sama Mr. David, atau ini sudah kali kesekian ya rekan-rekan gabung sama kita. Boleh dikasih tahu di kolom chat. Ya, kita sama-sama kenalan. Jadi kita datang di sini selain nanti dapat ilmu gitu ya dari Mr. David, kita juga dapat teman baru. Ya. Yang mau share Instagramnya atau Facebooknya juga boleh ya. Kita saling berkoneksi di sini. Oke, ada Pak Denny ya. Ini tim Teachnspire juga teman-teman. Ngajar kelas 1 sampai 6 ada di Bogor. Oke, kita tunggu ya Bapak Ibu yang lain juga sambil teman-temannya mulai masuk. Hai Miss Rain. Agak grogi nih hari ini karena ternyata ada Miss Rain. Ini teman saya, kakak saya dari Makassar dulu waktu ngajar. Hai Miss. Oh, ada Nadia juga. Ini kayak kita reuni mini ya. Reuni mini kita. Oke, sudah jam 11 di tempat saya. Selamat pagi kepada rekan-rekan. Selamat pagi, selamat siang juga. Khususnya untuk rekan-rekan yang dari wilayah Indonesia Timur ya, sudah jam 12 sekarang. Kami senang sekali rekan-rekan bisa bergabung di webinar Teachnspire setelah minggu lalu kita sempat off sebentar dari webinar kita, dan hari ini kita berkesempatan untuk belajar lagi bersama dengan tim The Teachers Academy. Kali ini kita belajar sama-sama dengan Mr. David ya. Nanti saya akan perkenalkan lebih rinci tentang Mr. David. Saya boleh tahu nggak teman-teman, apakah ada di sini yang hadir di webinar lalu tentang membuat aplikasi digital untuk handphone? yang kita sama-sama dengan The Teachers Academy juga. Ada? Oh, nggak ada ya. Nanti saya akan kenalin lebih detail tentang The Teachers Academy. Nanti teman-teman bisa pelajari. Nanti kalau mau kontak juga, mau kerjasama juga, nanti boleh hubungi. Ada Mr. David di sini ya. Oke, nah teman-teman mungkin sudah ada familiar. Teachnspire ini boleh di next. Teachnspire ini sebuah platform. Saat ini kita bergerak secara virtual. Kita membuka ruang untuk rekan-rekan guru saling berkolaborasi gitu ya, untuk belajar bersama-sama tentang praktek-praktek baik yang sudah teman-teman guru lakukan di tempat masing-masing. Kita mau belajar sama-sama supaya semakin baik gitu ya dalam kita mengajar, dalam kita dealing sama anak, dan untuk webinar hari ini kita khusus belajar tentang bagaimana kita memahami perkembangan otak anak ya. Oke. Nah, boleh di next Bu dari tim. Oke, next lagi. Nah, kami sangat yakin rekan-rekan yang hadir di sini dan rekan-rekan yang sudah bergabung dengan kami selama ini punya banyak sekali praktek-praktek baik yang worth to share ya, yang sangat baik jika bisa dibagikan supaya kita pelajari bareng-bareng dan jadi inspirasi juga buat kita yang mendengarkan gitu ya untuk diaplikasikan di kelas kita. Rekan-rekan bisa kami membuka kesempatan sebagai bentuk apresiasi kami juga untuk kerja keras rekan-rekan berinovasi di kelas gitu ya. Bisa membagikan praktek baiknya melalui artikel, bisa juga membagikan praktek baiknya melalui webinar atau workshop seperti ini. Atau kalau rekan-rekan juga berasal dari komunitas atau organisasi penggerak di bidang pendidikan, kita juga sangat-sangat terbuka untuk berkolaborasi. Kita juga sangat terbuka jika rekan-rekan butuh pelatihan khusus untuk sekolah rekan-rekan dengan topik tertentu. Ada rekan-rekan yang bersedia untuk juga berbagi secara gratis gitu ya, nanti bisa kami bantu hubungkan gitu. Nah, sudah banyak nih rekan-rekan yang berkenalan dari berbagai tempat di Indonesia di ruang chat ya. Senang sekali, selamat datang sekali lagi. Nah, selanjutnya boleh di next. Nah, nanti teman-teman bisa hubungi kami di Instagram, di Facebook, kita juga ada Telegram, nanti kami akan bagikan linknya. Rekan-rekan bisa bergabung di situ ya. Oke, sebelum saya lanjut, nanti minta tolong rekan-rekan untuk mute dulu. Nanti ketika rekan-rekan ingin bertanya secara langsung kepada Mr. David di sesi tanya jawab, nanti boleh nyalakan mikrofonnya. Oke, bisa next lagi. Nah, pembicara kita hari ini adalah Mr. David Ho. Lagi Bu, ya. Mr. David adalah Director dari The Teachers Academy. Beliau adalah pendiri Singapore Enrichment Hub. Sudah sangat berpengalaman sekali ya, punya banyak sekali pengalaman di bidang teachers training, apalagi di topik yang akan beliau bawakan hari ini. Beliau juga mendirikan The Teachers Academy, sebuah sekolah online bagi guru, kepala sekolah, dan siapa saja yang ingin dapatkan diploma, sarjana, maupun magister secara online. Program mereka terakreditasi oleh OTHM di UK. Ya, dan nanti teman-teman bisa menghubungi Mr. David juga ya kalau tertarik dengan program yang sangat baik untuk pengembangan kualitas guru gitu ya. Dan Mr. David juga pernah mengajar penggunaan teknologi digital dalam pembelajaran termasuk untuk coding, music digital, dan seni digital di Singapore Teachers Art ya. Jadi sangat-sangat berpengalaman sekali rekan-rekan. Nanti kalau rekan-rekan punya pertanyaan bisa sampaikan di kolom chat kapanpun pertanyaannya pop up. Nanti akan kami bantu filter dan tanyakan ke Mr. David di sesi tanya jawab nanti, gitu ya. Oke, tanpa berlama-lama lagi, wah sudah banyak nih rekan-rekan yang memperkenalkan diri di grup chat ya. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the speaker for today's webinar, Mr. David Ho. Alright, Mr. David, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Miss Irene.
Okay,
very good morning, teachers. I know it's Saturday morning. Thank you very much for attending the workshop. Okay, so I'm very sure that you're on Zoom every single day. Okay, and then last year until this year, Zoom is maybe one of the most used words for you. Okay, Now, today, before I start, I'm very excited to share with you about some of the practical research and learning that we have discovered about early childhood brain development. Okay, now if I talk too fast, you just type in the comments, or you can put out your hand and let me know. Okay, so now don't worry, the PowerPoint, right? I'll share also with you. I'll share with Miss Irene. Okay, so if you need a PowerPoint after this, you can basically take from Miss Irene. Okay, so now I just want to take about 3 minutes to share with you my company. Right, so we are from the Teachers Academy. We are from Singapore, but we also have an office in Indonesia. So now I am in Jakarta actually. Okay, so as in I'm in Jakarta, I'm not in Singapore. Okay, so our company is with OTHM. OTHM is actually a school accreditation body, so something like Cambridge or Trinity. Okay, so what we have in OTHM is that basically we issue certificates for diploma and also degree and also master's program. Right now in Teachers Academy, right, we do two things. We do workshops as well as certification programs. Okay, so I'll just share with you very quickly. I don't want to take too much time. Okay, so these are the workshops that we do. Now, each workshop, normally a practical workshop, is about 4 hours. Okay, in some schools, like we work with some schools. What we do is that we propose, or we work with the schools for 1 year workshop. That means to say every month we have one workshop, and then we run it for 1 year, okay, to develop the teachers' learning. So we have preschool, we have students management, about learning lesson planning, about skills development. Okay, we also have about digital classroom management and so forth, right? Okay, so if you're interested, can let us know. Okay, we can organize workshop for your school teachers also. Okay, now very quickly, this is actually the diploma program that we are running online. Okay, so we are running with teachers from BINUS, teachers from Sampurna, teachers also from Bina Bangsa. Okay, so now what we do is that in this program, it is a level 3, level 5, and level 7. Okay, most teachers, they take level 5 or 7. Okay, level 3 are for people who want to be a teacher but do not have any form of certification or experience. Okay, now level 5 runs for 10 months, level 7 runs for 1 year. Okay, now interesting thing about level 5 is that after you finish level 5, you can join the Society of Education and Training in UK. Okay, and also if let's say you join level 7, you can qualify for a master's program. Okay, so actually the benefit is very simple. You can get an international certification, and at a very affordable rate. So level 5 is 23 juta, level 7 is 31 juta. Okay, so once you enroll the program, actually what happens is your name will also be registered with OTHM, and then you are if you have to go to, if you're going for employment with some schools or what, you can actually, OTHM will, if you issue you an official letter, okay, to say that you have passed the program. All right, so that's all I want to share about the Teachers Academy. Okay, so if you're interested, you can talk to me after this. I'll put my email or my WhatsApp number also. Okay, now this is the thing that I want to share with you today that I'm quite excited about. It's about brain development. Okay. Now, today, actually, we're going to share with you about brain development and actually very practical research as well as tips, okay, about how you can do and better your lesson plan also, right? Now, it is known that, for example, music is beneficial for the brain, right? But the question is, how is music beneficial for left and the right brain? Now, left brain, as we know, is logical. Right brain, as we know, is creative, right? So the thing is that I want to share with you about practical aspects. So explaining about not just things that are beneficial, but I want to explain to you why and how are they beneficial. Okay, why they're beneficial and what are the things that we can do as part of our classroom, right? So how is beneficial? How is music beneficial, for example, for left and right brain? Music is beneficial for right brain because you have to be creative and then you can play songs, right? So you learn how to create songs on and compose songs on the piano or the guitar or the drums, for example. Okay, and based on Bloom's taxonomy, actually creativity is probably the highest level of indication of achievement, right? Now, how about left brain? How about logic development? Now, in music-wise, how do we develop logic in students? Very simple, just by counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. Now, this is very, very subconscious counting. As counting starts, actually what children develop is they develop a very logical segmentation of beats and time, okay, as well as counting. So that's how it develops. Okay, now today I'm going to introduce to you about the brain again. Okay, I'm very confident all of you have a brain. Okay, there's no way nobody has a brain, right? Now we're going to look at a very, very practical look about the facts. Okay, basically facts on the brain. Now these facts will translate into things that you can use in your classroom. So more mindfulness. So why is mindfulness important? Because when you know theories and you know facts, when parents talk to you, you can tell them, look, based on this research, this is the reason why we're doing this. And also, when you do your lesson planning, maybe you present to your management or you have some ideas in mind and you do your lesson planning, at least you know that it is backed up with theory and research facts. Okay. Now, most teachers we know, they actually are doing something correct. The only thing is that they don't know how to explain it because they have never seen the theory before, right? It is similar to Bloom's taxonomy. Like most teachers actually are using Bloom's taxonomy, but they don't know until we explain to them. Then they say, "Oh, actually, we're doing the same thing." Okay, so it's important to understand theory. That's why and research development so that you can back up your lesson plan as well as to explain to parents or your management more convincing. Yeah. Okay. Now there are a few brain facts we want to study today. Ooh, okay, hang on a second. Yeah. Let me. I don't think this might be the right file. Okay. Okay, just give me a minute. Okay. Okay, so okay, actually we have some animation, but I don't think the animation might be. Okay, anyway, so some brain facts that we need to understand today. All right, so basically, first and foremost, the brain needs to be built. Okay, the brain was created to be built, meaning to say that can you imagine you're always hungry all the time? Because your body needs to get more nutrition to build itself, right? And that's how children get bigger and bigger. Okay, it's similar to a seed. Once you put a seed underground, it will just grow by itself. There's nothing really you can do about it. You can't really stop it unless you put poison, of course, right? The brain is actually similar. So the brain needs to be built, and it has a capacity or a very natural instinct to keep building and building itself. Okay, regardless of whether the information is positive or it is negative, right? So what children learn before they talk actually affects and also helps the potential. Okay, now very interestingly, right, babies, they did a study before, we have some facts on this. Babies, even in the womb, they can recognize light and then they can recognize music also. So that's why a lot of moms play music for them and they think, oh, it should be good playing classical music, right? But the fact is that, yeah, actually it is good because when they come out of the womb and you play the same classical music piece or you play a similar piece of music, it gives them a form of comfort because there is a recognizability. Okay. Now the fact is that babies learn way before we know and before they can talk. All right. So the brain definitely needs to be built, and this building cannot be stopped. All right. Now it is kind of a scary thought if you think about it, because whatever information we put in will stay there. All right. So that's the first fact. Now, second thing is about neural connections. So what is neural connections? Now, neural connections are basically, imagine wires forming in between in the brain. Okay. So during the early years, typically there are about 700 neural connections formed every second. All right. Now, interestingly, once for some researchers, they have studied before that actually as much as a million neural connections happen, not every second, but per day. Okay, so this is not right. It should be actually per day. So what I'm saying is that basically babies, right? They are consistently making neural connections. Now, if you look at this graph here, as a newborn baby, you do not have a lot of neural connections, right? Why? Because they do not have a lot of information input yet. Now, after 6 months, it gets a bit more. Then after 2 years, you get a lot of neural connections, all right? So what are neural connections? Basically, they are information that's fed from the environment into the baby. Okay, now there is this particular thing called serve and return. Okay, so what is serve and return? Serve means the baby will give a signal to a parent or to a person, and then the parent or the person that they interact with will return a certain response, right? Okay, now this response in particular is something like an information that the baby will store with them. All right. Now, it's a bit scary to think about it because if, let's say, the response is negative, over time, it will develop into toxic stress. All right. So toxic stress is something that's repeated and then something that is consistent. All right. Now, what's the difference between toxic stress and also stress in general? Now, sometimes when children go for examinations, they go for tests, right? And then like my nephew last year, he went for he's in grade 6. So before he finishes grade 6, he'll go to junior high. And it's a very important exam, right? At the end of the year for him. Now, every day for 6 months, he could not sleep. He'll wake up at 3 a.m. at night. Okay, is that normal stress or toxic stress? Now, that was normal stress. Okay, because if your stress is towards something that you have to do and then you're worried about it, but the thing is this, right? My sister, which is his mom, was every day encouraging him. He will sleep, she will sleep together with him to make sure he'll fall asleep and things like that. Okay, so you might have stress on a student's day-to-day life basis, but if that serve and return interaction, that means to say the return interaction to the child is something that's positive, even though the environment might be stressful, the child will still get it very positively. Okay, now on the other hand, if let's say the babies have a serve and return interaction where the interaction portion becomes very negative, the amount of neural connections in the brain still will be the same, but the difference is that the neural connections will be negative. Okay, so what I mean on a negative serve and return interaction, very simple. When the baby starts crying, okay, and then the parents get frustrated, they shout at them and ask them to shut up. And then you have this serve and return interaction from the babies where they think, oh, I cannot always talk. I must keep quiet. Okay, so as a result, especially in the Asian context, babies or children tend to be quieter. But of course, now we are seeing that parents want the kids to talk more. That's why we have public speaking programs, we have spelling bee and things like that. Okay, we have speech and drama program that's also getting more popular. Right. So these are very positive serve and return interaction. All right. So whatever it is, all right, the children are what we call a piece of white paper. It's like a literal white sheet. So every interaction that we have with them is very crucial, right? Now, how does this translate into our practical lesson planning? It is very important to communicate this with parents so that parents will learn to be patient with their children. Okay, so whatever things they say or has quite a long-lasting effect on them. Okay, now this leads on to the next point about brains, which is actually about muscle memory and instinct. Okay, so every time we learn something new, a new neural connection is formed in your brain. Okay, that means to say you have a new wire, all right, and that wire will form something in your brain, and that wire will tell you, oh, if let's say you're learning how to play tennis, you need to swing your right hand like this way, right? It's your brain that's asking you to swing your right hand, not your muscle. Okay, now if you do it consistently, the interesting thing is that you'll become very good at it. Okay, now this is basically what we call muscle memory or instinct. Over time, if you don't use that connection, if you don't practice that, you will get lost. Okay, now how is this important for lesson planning and also development of children? Now, at the early age, of course, we want to expose kids to as many opportunities as possible, as many different sports, music, or something like that as possible, right? Now, based on my conversations, all right, I have a lot of friends who are in enrichment and they do like tennis, they do swimming and things like that. So all of us agree that by grade 6, which is about 12 years old, 12 tahun, more or less the child has to be quite sure about what sport, what music instrument, or what thing they want to do. Okay, so at age 12, while they're still young, that's the reason why we get them to be more focused in learning a particular sport, right? And why is that important? Because once their neural connections are more firm, they become good at it, right? And it's very instinctive for them to hit the tennis ball in a certain way that I can't, or to swim in a particular style that is faster than what I can do, or to run with a particular gait or particular running style that is faster than all of us. All right. So where does this come in? This one comes in on a neural connection. Okay, it is very complex and not as simple. Okay, personally, I also run a lot. I run marathons, for example, right? Now, what does this come in muscle memory? It comes in muscle memory in a few things. So I learned about how to adjust my steps, adjust my gait. And I know once I hit 10 kilometers, I'll feel very bad. And then I have to use my brains to learn how to manage myself. All right. So this is very, very important. It's about getting kids to focus, right? But our suggestion is, of course, at a preschool level, we try to get children to get exposed to as many different kind of things as possible. And then we talk about the focus later. That's totally fine. Okay. Now, kids also need predictability. Now, an early kid's brain, right, they set up routines to predict the future. Okay. Now, at a very, very basic level, let's put it on the entire framework of living things. Okay. Now, every different living thing is staying on a different stage, different level. Humans, I would say probably we're at the highest level because we're the smartest, right? Meaning to say that at a lower level, they are still animals, they're smart. Okay, but they are just not as clever. Okay, so now predictability is a very, very basic instinct. Okay, so what I mean by predictability? Now, if you go to a zoo, for example, right? I've been to a zoo quite a lot of times, right? So what happens is sometimes I will pass by a place where they have a lot of prairie dogs. Prairie dogs are like squirrels, right? But big squirrels. Now, there's a couple of times I pass by the prairie dogs, and when I pass by, right, suddenly all the dogs all stand up and they start running towards the gate, right? And then I think to myself, are they running towards me? Then I realize they are not running towards me. Okay, so what happens is actually they are running because they can smell food. Okay, and it is also a certain time, right? So this is predictability at the lowest instinct. Even animals need predictability. Okay, like outside my apartment, right? Every afternoon there's a cat that always comes because she knows that she'll get fed. Okay, we'll feed her. Now, so same thing for children. Children need predictability. Okay, why is predictability important? Because it will give them a sense of safety, that they will be fed. That means we'll give them food. Okay, it will give them a sense of security that, oh, we need to sleep at this time, we need to wake up at a certain time. So stability for the brain is very important so that they know that the environment is consistent, there's no change, and they can learn new things at the same time. Now, if your environment is consistently changing, your brain needs to consistently adjust to the environment and also learn new things. Now, you're doing two things at one time, right? So it is actually a whole lot more stable. So how is this translated to your teaching in your school? Now, your environment that you create for the children is very, very important. All right, so you have to have predictability, a timetable, and normally before we start the lessons, we'll tell the children, okay, children, we are going to learn this, this, and this today. Okay, and before the start of the lessons, that's why we have the hello song. Hello, hello, right? And when the students sing it, they know that we're starting the lesson. Okay, all right. Now the next one. Okay, the environment is very important for the brain also. The environment meaning not just the wall color, the environment of the tables and the chairs, but also the people in the classroom. Okay, so when you're setting up a school, environment is a very important factor to consider. All right, and then you have to consider the fact that training the preschool teachers and training your teachers' assistants, all right, and telling them, look, whatever it is, we have to be encouraging to the kids, and then we have to spend time to talk to the kids, right? Okay, so I won't talk so much about this because it's quite straightforward. Okay, now for today's session, normally sometimes we have interaction or we have teachers discussion. Okay, but for today's session, there's a lot of sharing about theories and research. So I'm afraid I'm just going to talk the whole time. Okay, so I just need your help to just bear with me a bit. Okay, now I'm going to share with you about this thing called the Epicenter project. This is a very, very interesting project. It's a project about study of low-income children in USA. Okay, this project started a long time ago. These are actual pictures. Okay, these are actual pictures from the project itself. Okay, now the Epicenter project was started by this man called Craig Ramey and also Joseph Sparling. All right, so it started in the 1970s. Okay, so what happened in the 1970s? Okay, this guy you can see here is called Craig Ramey. So the problem in the 1970s was that there was an income gap, meaning to say that the rich were getting richer, then the poor were still the same. And then they were very concerned that what if the rich people, they were going to get smarter and going to get better because they have the money to get the best teachers and everything, right? And then because the environment is better, it's cleaner, then they have an advantage. So what they did was they took 111 babies who are poor. That means they're from DESO, right? And then they divide them into two groups. All right. And these 111 babies, they have exactly the same income. They have from the same neighborhoods. Everything is the same. Okay. The difference is one group had quality childcare education. That was the only difference. All right. Now, this project is a really very big breakthrough in the study of childhood education. Okay. Now, what did they learn from the Epicenter project? Now, every single picture here, as I can tell you, as I told you before, right, is actually from the project. Okay, that's one of those babies. Now, key points for the project from the project. The brain is connected to everything we do. Okay, that means to say, as babies, right, as you understand the serve and return interaction. Now, basically everything that we have, okay, everything that we're thinking about is a result of our environment. Okay, if you studied educational childhood education theory, this is like John Piaget. John Piaget has a cognitive theory where he believes that basically who we are is a total sum. That means all our experiences, all our knowledge combined. That's how it forms who we are. Okay, we might have knowledge, but the way we act might not be entirely based on the knowledge. It also might be based on experience. Okay, now let me give you one example. I have a friend, she went into a lift, an elevator, right? And then in Singapore, and then one day the lift was spoiled. It just didn't work. And then the lift dropped for about 3 stories. Okay, now she didn't die, she survived, of course, but she was injured. And then the thing was that after that, she didn't dare to take a lift for the next 3 to 4 months. Okay, now knowledge-wise, she knows that the lift is safe. But because based on the experience, she has a trauma, so she doesn't dare to take the lift. Okay, so based on that just one incident, that's how powerful sometimes incidences can happen. Okay, now let's go back to the serve and return interaction again. Now, the ironic thing was that after 3 months, right, her condition worsened, so she had to take a wheelchair. Right, so she has to sit on the wheelchair. And the thing is that when she's on the wheelchair, when she wants to get to the top of the building, she needs to take a lift again. Okay, she can't avoid the lift. Now, at the first few times, it's a very, very stressful for her because she went out into the lift, she's worried the thing is going to drop again. Now, as she takes the lift again and again and again, now you have this serve and return interaction where she starts to realize, hey, actually the lift is safe. So now she's okay again, thanks to the wheelchair. It's very, very weird, all right? But basically, the entire summary is this: the brain that we have is connected to everything we do. And it is possible to reverse a negative action just by positive reinforcement again and again and again. Right. Now, some other key points. A child's opportunity. This is very, very important, teachers. Okay, so you might forget everything I mentioned today, but please remember this. A child's opportunity to thrive is not dependent on the environment, meaning to say that the parents can be divorced. Okay, the parents can be in jail. Okay, the parents can be very, very, very poor. All right, but this will not affect the child's opportunity to do well in the future. That is a very, very good piece of news, actually. Okay, now some other things, very interesting things, as we learned before, all babies come ready to learn because the brain is built to learn. And also, just because babies cannot talk doesn't mean they're not learning, right? Actually, babies are learning even though they cannot talk. That's the only thing is that they cannot express themselves, that's all. Okay, now last one, this is also very important. So what is the key thing, okay, for you to be a very good teacher and also for your school to be a good school? It is high quality interaction that is consistent, that is intentional, and that is individualized. Probably the most difficult one, individualized. Okay. So what I mean by high quality interaction that is consistent, intentional, and individualized. Okay, let me give you an example. Okay. So let's say we have a banana, right? So I have a banana here. And then the child takes a banana, right? So the worst case is I just ignore the child and say, oh, okay. And I tell myself, oh, you're holding a banana. That's the worst kind of interaction. Okay. Normal interaction is, oh, you have a banana. That's nice. Okay. Now, what is something that's intentional and high quality? Something that will make the child curious. That means to say, I will ask the child, what do you have here? What color is it? Is this a fruit or a vegetable? Where do you think it comes from? All right. So how do you grow this? So what am I doing is I'm developing curiosity, right? That's one. I'm also developing critical thinking. All right. And what I'm doing is I'm developing curiosity and critical thinking. Now, why is this considered high quality interaction? Now, we know that brains develop because of neurons connecting, right? Every time you learn something. Now, the problem is that if you don't learn something, you're not going to have new neurons forming, right? Now, instead of just telling a child this is a banana, when you tell the child this is a fruit or a vegetable and get them to think, and then you ask the child where it grows from, you're expanding their brain in terms of thinking the different things about the banana, all right? And this is just a banana. Next time you have an apple, you have maybe a jar, for example, okay? Every single thing they'll be thinking in a lot of different ways. That is high quality interaction. And that's how it developed critical thinking. Why is this important? This is important because next time when your child grows up, when they meet business partners, for example, or when they want to get married to a wife, they won't be just thinking one thought where, oh, this is a girl and she's so beautiful, and then they get married, okay? Because there will be a lot of trouble. But they'll be thinking that, can she add value to my life, or can my husband add value to my life? Does my husband work hard and have potentially have a good future? Does my husband love me? And things like that. So this critical thinking where we're doing for a banana now can translate into a lot of things in the future. All right. That is high quality interaction. Now it has to happen every day consistently. Okay. It has to be intentional. That means to say every time a child gets something or something like that, you have to ask them, hey, what is this? All right. And then it has to be individualized, meaning to say that with some children, I can only ask one question about banana, for example. With some children, I can ask 10 questions. Okay, now that's the difference between a good preschool teacher and a great teacher. All right, so let's try to achieve also for this high quality interaction, of course. Okay, now the thing is this, all right, the Ambassadorian project, the interesting thing was they continued the research on the until they were in adulthood. Okay. Now, as adults, they realize that these adults, even though they're from the ghetto is like Deso, right? But the difference is there's a lot of crime, right? So even though they're from the ghetto, when they have good childhood education, they're 4 times more likely to get a degree, to get paid more, and they were also healthier as adults. Why healthier? Meaning to say they are not so much depressed, they'll eat better, they'll feel better about themselves. Okay, so it translates into a lot of things. Quality early childcare model influenced by brain science. Okay, that means to say brain science are things like high quality interaction, things like that, can change their lives forever. Okay, what I mean change their lives forever? It means that parents and friends around them also can get positively influenced. Okay, I'll share with you an example, a real example. The person is still alive today. Okay, now this is basically the project, right? As we learned before. Now, there are a few summary, a few key factors that they learned about from this project. Okay. Now, so the few things that translates, okay, that's important. First one actually is a nurturing parent, a parent who has to be very encouraging and so forth. All right. Now, the fact is that sometimes you don't have, the children do not have nurturing parents, okay, because the father is on his handphone most of the time or playing games, or he's not at home. And then the mother might also be very depressed or whatever it is. So they don't have a nurturing parent. So we replace it with a nurturing teacher. That's why as teachers, our role is very important. Okay. Second thing is rich language. Rich language means very high quality language. Okay. Now, you don't have to think about high quality language as we're going to talk about politics, or we're going to discuss about algebra, or we're going to talk about let's say maybe conspiracy theories, right? But we rich language in terms of very simple things like high pitch sounds, like, hey, that's a good job they're doing. Okay. Now, research has shown that when parents talk to children in high pitch sounds, children tend to respond very positively. It is so interesting, very, very interesting. And then third factor is play. Play that promotes learning. It's not just playing, but play that helps children to learn. Okay. And the last one, which is very, very common, but a lot of people ignore, is actually good nutrition. Good nutrition is absolutely important, because as much as we have head knowledge, but we also need good building blocks for our physical body. So these are the 4 factors that they came up with as a result of doing research on the Epicenter project. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the 4 factors. Okay, so now first one, responsive, nurturing parents. Okay, this is very interesting. Now, parents who are responsive, meaning to say that, let's say you're on your handphone, okay, and then your child talks to you, you need to put down your handphone and say, oh, yes, yes, darling, yes, baby. What do you say? Can you let me know? All right. Now, a lot of parents, myself included, sometimes when the kids stop, we're, oh, yeah, okay, yes, yeah, okay, yeah, that's good, that's good, that's very good. And then we focus on our handphones. Now, what we're going to do is we are becoming unresponsive, right? So we have to be very mindful about this. Now, the things that as parents or as teachers, most of our teaching is based from experience or from other teachers, right? So we learn it based on experience and we learn it from other teachers. Now, the fact is that scientific insights and research can help. That's why we need to learn education theories. Now, for yourself, for ourselves as educators, actually, it is also important to communicate this scientific insights and education theories to parents, because most parents are, basically all parents, we are all first-time parents, right? Unless you have a second or third child. But the fact is that we need to understand whether what we're doing right is correct or not, right? Now, on responsive nurturing parents, the servant-written interaction is very, very important. As we mentioned before, when the children give a form of a message or information to us, we need to actually return it. Okay. Now, whether it is to encourage them, whether is it to discourage them from bad behavior, okay, all forms of interaction is always very important, right? So essentially for parents, right, for school teachers, the difficult thing is this: we have to be what we want them to become. Okay, so if you want your child to be honest, you have to be honest. Okay, it's very tough, right? But of course, you don't have to be perfect, right? So the thing is this: what I mean by being honest is, if you make a mistake, then you have to tell the child also, look, I made a mistake about this. Okay, so that is part of a nurturing parent, right? And then until babies develop language also, they use visual clues, whether the parent is happy or not. Okay, so there's an experiment called a still face experiment, which I'm going to share with you in a while. Now, but before that, as I mentioned about serve and return interaction, about parents becoming what the children, we want the children to become. Now, a key, very important aspect that we want children to learn is always this thing called values. Okay, values are things like honesty, hard work, being strong, being independent. All these are very positive values. Okay, why? Because when they grow older as adults, they might be very smart, they might be very intellectual and smarter than us, right? Because they might be better in math, science, English, and they can become very good in their careers. They can become CEOs, president director, or anything like that. Okay, but the thing is that this career and achievement is separate from their values. All right, now let me give you two examples. These two friends of mine, okay? One is a CEO of an American bank in Singapore. Okay, he makes like 500 juta a month. It's like really high salary, right? He's like very rich. Now I have another friend, he's a CEO of an insurance company for Asia Pacific. It's even bigger. He makes like maybe 800 juta a month. That's his salary, right? That's like how much we make maybe in how many years, right? But he makes in a month. Now, their achievement, right, is they're very successful in achievement. Okay. Now that's part one of the story. Now, part two of the story is a few years ago, both of them got sacked. Both of them got fired from the job because of politics, right? So after both of them got fired, they ended up quite in a bad shape. What I mean in a bad shape is now the American CEO, the CEO of the American bank, for the next 1 year of his life, every once 2 weeks, always wanted to commit suicide. Okay, he went to the hospital, he went to visit doctors, and then he will message all of us, we are his friends, right? And say, oh, I don't feel very good. I think I'm going to commit suicide now. And he did this for like 1 year. Okay. Now the other guy also, the CEO of the insurance company for Asia Pacific. Now after he got fired, he went into depression. Then he got into fights with people. That means literally fighting. Now what's the problem here? The problem is that as children, they were not taught about values. Okay, as simple as that. You can be very, very successful in life, but if as a kid or as an adult, you don't understand the concept of values, when the achievement of success, right, gets taken away from you, all right, you still have the values to back up whatever situation you're facing. Now, the problem is when your achievement is taken from you and you do not have any values to take, all right, to hold you up, that's why people get into depression, get into suicidal tendencies and things like that. Now, I'm not saying that it's wrong to get into depression or suicidal tendencies. It is quite common in Singapore, especially because we are very stressed out. Okay, but in spite of depression, in spite of difficult situations, the values are the part that will hold you up. I have friends who are in business and also gone through severe depression, but because they are very hardworking and they are very honest with themselves and they are strong independently, so they try their best to get out of it, and they do. Okay, it's possible, but it takes time, of course. All right, so we have to nurture values. So that's the nurturing part. Okay, that is very important for us to understand and to remember. Okay, now you can have a look at this still face experiment. Okay, I'm going to share with you the video just so you can see this video, just a short one. Okay, so this still face experiment is a very, very interesting experiment where they get the parent to just stay in front of the baby, okay, and then not to respond to the baby at all. Okay, so you can see for now, right, the mom is very responsive to the baby, and she's very responsive. Then the baby is enjoying every single moment. Now the mother turns away, and then what she does is she gives the baby a very still face, no expression at all. Okay, so the baby, what the baby is trying to do is trying to serve. He's trying to give the mom a smile so that the mom will give a reaction back. The mom still gives a very still face. Okay. So what happens now is the baby gets annoyed because the mom is not giving any form of interaction. So the baby screams. Okay, you can see the baby is getting annoyed and he's screaming at the same time. All right. Okay, so you can see that the baby is crying, things like that, just by simply from the fact that the mom did not reply or respond. Okay, so now the doctor tells the mom to reply again. So the mom replies, then the baby is okay again. Okay. Right. So this is a very interesting video. Actually, I'll share with you later in the chat group. Okay, in the chat for this in this Zoom. Okay, and you can have a look. look at the video. Now, the very interesting thing is that actually as babies, even on a baby level, they need the interaction. Okay, so even if an adult is there, but if the adult doesn't reply or have interaction, it is absolutely negative. And then the baby will also provide a negative response. Okay, it is very interesting. We are just literally products of our environment. Okay, so you can have a look at this later on. So now, interestingly also, sometimes there is a loss in connection. Okay, that means to say sometimes parents are working and then they're worried, oh, if based on this still face experiment, that means I need to be with my child all the time. But it's okay, all right? There might be a loss in connection, all right? You might not spend some time with your child, but the interesting thing is that it is possible to reconnect with your child again. Okay, the reconnection has to be purposeful, has to be intentional, and has to be consistent. Okay, so that's basically all around good news. So what I'm trying to say is that don't be so hard on yourself as teachers. Don't be so hard on yourself as parents, okay? As long as you have good intentions and you love your child, I think that is probably the most important thing to remember. Okay, so the summary for this still face experiment is real conversations with real people is an education itself, okay? And the television set is a horrible babysitter. Now, for me personally, I really, really hate it when I see parents put the iPhone or the iPad in front of a child just to get a child to eat lunch or dinner, okay? So when I go with my friends and they do that, look, I'm not trying to be a busybody, but I'll take the iPhone normally and I'll take the iPad from them. And I tell them, look, I know your mbak, for example, is feeding your child, okay? If your mbak is feeding your child, fine. Maybe put a book instead, you know, or put some toys, okay? Now, just to share with you what I did when my son was a baby. My son is 11 years old, okay? But when he was baby, I'll put toys, get him to play. I'll put a book and I say, hey, look at this. Look at this, Russell. This is an apple. This is a bee. You know what bees do? Bees fly around to collect honey. And honey is good because it helps you to grow stronger, things like that. So instead of taking an iPad. Now, as he grew older in like grade 1 or like in when he was like 5 or 6, and my son is very active. He likes to walk around. So I'll tell him, look, we still talk, okay, when you're eating. But what I'll do is this, okay, you finish your meal earlier than the rest, never mind. I'll finish my meal earlier also together with you. Once we're finished, we leave the dinner table and we just go and walk around while your grandparents are still eating. Okay, so I'll walk around with him outside the mall or something, then walk around the shops and we'll talk. And we'll say things like, oh, this is called a mannequin. They have this thing so that you can put clothes on it and things like that. Okay, so you need to have real conversations with your with children. Okay, that itself is an education. Okay, now the second thing, okay, is rich language. So what's with rich language? Okay, it's basically intentional language. Now, language is a medium of exchange. All right. Now, language was started in modern day Iraq about maybe 6,000 years ago in this place called Mesopotamia. They were the origins of the first civilization. Why is language so important? Okay. Language is the first symbol system on which other symbol system rely on. Okay, so actually this should be one sentence. Okay, so what I mean is this, very simple. Based on just learning English, we learn about everything in the world. You learn science with English, you learn math with English, you learn about physics with English, you learn about the world with English. So language itself is a symbol of exchange. Okay, now the fact is that in this world, there are not just humans, okay? Now, if you study the history of humans, right, there's not just Homo sapiens. We are Homo sapiens. There are different species of humans. Okay, there's, I can't remember the other species here, but if I remember correctly, there are about 6 other species of humans, okay? Now, the reason why Homo sapiens survived and the other rest of the species of humans died out is very simple. It's because for us Homo sapiens, we can unite with each other just on a very simple basis of an idea in the head. Okay. Now, one idea that we share is this thing called language. Another idea that some men share is the loyalty to a football club. Okay, to a football club. Like I might be in Singapore, you might be in Indonesia, there might be somebody in India or someone in US. But the fact is that because we love Manchester United as a football club, so even though we meet in the first time, we can become friends. Okay, so it is something we take for granted. But the fact is that we can unite based on language. Animals can never do that. That's the thing. All right, so that's the amazing thing about humans. Okay, so language is very important now. Between 3 to 6 months, okay, babies can distinguish the tone and sounds from all the languages in the world. It is really amazing. That means to say you can talk to a baby right now who is 4 months, whether is it in German, in Thai, in Chinese, or Mandarin, or Bahasa Indonesia, or English, whatever it is, whether you're encouraging, discouraging, being nice, or whatever, the baby can know. Okay, why? Because our tone is very important. That's something else we also project other than just language. Okay, so rich language is very important. So what I mean by rich language, so when we talk to children, the thing is this: having a higher tone, like "Hey, good job," very good for you. That really is very encouraging for the baby, right? So you can see that when dog owners talk to dogs, dogs also typically respond to tone. Okay, so dogs, when you talk to dogs in a high tone, "Hey, good boy," dogs tend to get more excited. Okay, this is proven, yeah. When you talk to dogs in a harsh tone, like, "Hey, why do you do that for?" Then of course the dogs will hide under the chair or under the bed, whatever it is. Okay, now some practical considerations. So sometimes we talk to parents, and this is real. Okay, even in Singapore, my friends tell me this. I say, "Hey, I have some very close friends that don't spend a lot of time with the babies." I say, "Hey, bro, why don't you spend time with your baby?" They say, they can't even talk to me. We don't play the same game. Like my friend plays a lot on his handphone, and he says that my son wants to go to the playground, but I only play handphone. So what do I do? We don't do the same thing. Then I tell them, look, very simple. Look, actually, the fact is that they need to be challenged. They need to be stimulated. Okay. So as parents, as preschool teachers, we have to go down to the level, of course. Okay. And I know it's a very simple thing, but Piaget's theory also states very specifically that, look, adults and babies are different. We are not babies, and babies are not adults. Okay. Why is this an important theory fact? Because before Piaget, everyone treated babies and children as just mini adults. Right. So as we mentioned before, the prevalence of rich language also is in high pitch and slow, pleasant to listen and clear speech. Okay. Now at 11 to 14 months, okay, now the number of words that you use to a child, okay, based on that, scientifically, educators can predict the number of words that a child will know at age 2. Okay, why? Because when you inculcate curiosity in a child, okay, when you encourage a child to be curious, the child will learn more and they will want to learn more. Okay, and this is regardless of social status, meaning to say, doesn't matter whether you're rich, poor, whatever it is. Okay, now the interaction really will develop a very, very good child. Okay, right. So this is all proven. Yeah, it's not just something that it's a theory. Right. So the third thing, okay, the third thing is play that promotes learning. Okay, basically play is actually about learning social skills also, right? Because normally when kids play, they play alone. Playing alone inculcates a lot of creativity and constructivist skills, but when you play with others, you learn about social skills. Okay, and when you play and develop social skills, you're actually picking up content for interaction. So what I mean is this: remember serve and return. Okay, when I talk to other people and say, "Hey, I want this now," and then people give me a negative response, right? And then I'll give back a negative response. "No, I want it now." Okay, but I learned that after a while I do this, I do not get what I want. So I learn to tone down. I say, "Can I please have this?" All right, so that's about learning social skills. That's your serve and return and developing neural. Okay, so a case study will be tools of the mind. I don't really have the time to run through it. Okay, but you can check this out. Okay, tools of the mind. They talk about developing students for play. All right. Now, there's also another case study, another theory which is being made in practice called makerspace. Okay, so you can check this out. Okay, I'll put this also in makerspace inside the PowerPoint, and you can check out what makerspace is. Makerspace is basically in every classroom they have a table, and they get the kids to go there every day 1 hour and just do anything that they want to do. Okay, anything. They won't be assessed or given points or marks for everything like that, but they can just about do anything that they want to do. All right. So now the fact is this, all right? The secret sauce in play, that means to say the secret ingredient is not gadgets or computers, but things that allow their imagination to run wild. All right, and that is what makes a very good brain. Okay, now let's go to the analogy of using a banana, for example. Okay, now I give a kid a banana. All right, now assuming the child is not hungry, what they'll do is they'll pretend that it's a gun. Okay, and then they'll play around with it. Now this is really what happens with boys. Okay, because I have a son, so I know how he behaves. Now the thing is that if you give a child a gadget, the problem is that every single information from the gadget keeps getting fed to him. It keeps getting over to him, right? Now, what's the problem here? The problem is that there's no interaction. All right. And every time the information keeps getting fed to you, getting fed to a child, the problem is that the child cannot have developed critical thinking because it would just be information feeding. That's one. Okay. Now, second thing is that you cannot interact with a gadget. Okay, now the third thing is that you cannot develop creativity. Okay, because everything, including the creative content, is already inside the gadget. That is a problem. Okay, so as a result, when you see everything like that, after a while, the child starts to develop this box where they think, oh, everything should be this way. And then you are not, the child doesn't have that understanding to be creative. Okay, now let me share with you a second example. Now, that's my personal example. Many years ago, when I started the business in the education business, okay, what I do is that I will drive around Singapore. I go to every single school. I'll start at 6 in the morning, jam nam, and every hour I'll drive around to all the different schools and I say, hello, my name is David. We have a program. Do you want to buy our program? Like that. I'll go to every single school. Now, this is back in 2005. We do not have Google Map. We have nothing, right? So what I have is I have a book, okay, a street directory. So every day, right, every night, about 9 p.m., I look at the directory and say, oh, I'm going to this place, this place, this place, and I write it out. And then in my mind, I'll think, okay, I need to drive straight. After I go to the school, I need to go there, make a putar balik, and then I'll belok kanan, you know, and I'll go to a school, something. Now, these days, I use Google Map. And when I go back to Singapore, right, now last time I was still able to imagine in my mind, if I go straight, I turn left, and this should be towards north. And normally I'm about 90% correct, right? Now these days I don't do that anymore. I use Google Map. And then I realized the problem is that when I use Google Map, I start to lose my sense of direction. You know, I start to rely a lot on tech. And then I start to realize that I don't really understand my sense of direction, whether I'm a north, south, east, or west. Okay, generally my sense of direction actually is quite good. Okay, but I realized that what happened was technology dumbed me down. It made me more stupid. Okay, because I relied so much on this that I stopped imagining in my mind, I need to go straight, turn left, turn right, and visualize that. I lost that sense of visualization. Okay, so this is a very simple example, but it's very prevalent now. Okay, so we need to get the kids out of the gadgets and everything into basically play. Okay, now one thing I want to share with you is actually about music. Okay, by the way, Miss Irene, we have until what time again? 1 hour, yeah.
1.5 hours. So we have like about 30 more minutes.
Okay, good. Okay, yeah. Good enough. Okay, so one very interesting thing is actually music. Okay, so my first business actually is a music school. Now, last time, even though my business is a music school, people will tell me that music is very important for preschool. I say, oh yeah, I'm sure, you know, but I don't really believe in that. But the more research I do and the more things I do, I find out that music really is very important for children. Okay. Now, children who play music or sing create more connections in the brain. They do create more left and right brain connections. Okay. And this actually helps their ability in math and language. Okay, why is music so important? Because music is very, very enjoyable. It is something like eating chocolates or eating sweet. You don't need to force a child to eat a chocolate or sweet, right? Now, you don't need to force a child to learn music. But of course, sometimes you have to force a child to learn math. Okay, now music is on YouTube, it's on the radio and everywhere that you hear. So in our lessons, we actually teach music like pop music because it's something enjoyable. Now, why is this left and right brain connection? As I mentioned before, left brain, we use it to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, right? Now, more complex time signatures, timing is like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then they have to figure out and play together with the time, you know. So that's a lot of logic development. Okay. Now on the right brain, they learn how to dance, how to move with music. and we tell the children, okay, look, we want you to move with music, but every time I count to 4, I want you to jump. So they just about do anything they want. Okay, that's creativity, right brain. They just do anything they want, they develop movement. And then we do 1, 2, 3, jump. So everyone jump. Okay, so we are doing left and right brain at the same time. Now, after they develop more connections, they realize that, hey, actually, we realize that actually their brains are a bit more active, okay? And this aids their ability to learn math and language, okay? So it means to say you develop their brains better, so it is transferable to learn something else. You already have a building, and this building you can put a classroom. It's an empty classroom. You can fill it with a gym. You can put a building, a swimming pool in a gym. You can put a storeroom in a building also, okay? So you're effectively building a building, which is the brain. Okay, music also helps babies predict patterns. Very interesting, because of time signature. Okay, and synchronic movements helps babies learn about cooperation. That meaning on a basic level, normally for music we teach individual competency. That means the ability to play instruments. Now on a higher level, once the students are okay, we teach students to play with each other. Okay, and why is it important? It's very important because for a lot of students who think they are very good already, when they play as a team, they know that they cannot play too much and to show off. Because once they play too much and show off, the entire group dynamic and the whole music piece will become very, very bad. That's for a good student. If we talk about the worst student, all right, you have students who go on stage and perform and they're just very shy, they don't want to do anything. You know, and we tell the students, look, if you're going to be shy and don't want to do anything, you're going to affect the rest of the students, and then their performance is going to be horrid. Okay, so we talk about collective teamwork. Okay, so that's important. And also, of course, literacy and numeracy can be learned from music. Okay, we learn about reading, we learn about words from the lyrics in the music piece. Okay, now kids learn language faster than adults. It is a fact. Why? Because when children learn language, they don't bother to think about the meaning of the word. Okay, they just learn, oh, fruit, fruit, vegetable, vegetable, like that. Okay, then later on, they make the connection between fruit. Now, for adults, we take a longer time because we want to find out what's the meaning of a fruit, what does it encompass, and things like that. So normally, as adults, we learn language slower, okay? And numeracy, of course, as I mentioned, we learn from time signatures and things like that. Okay, now the last thing is this, okay? For Epicenter project, the last conclusion was nutrition is very, very important for kids, okay? Specifically breastfeeding, okay? Now there are benefits for the growth in children for breastfeeding, all right? So milk from mom, because there are a lot of nutrition in terms of vitamins and basically the vitamins form a very strong immunity for children, all right? And also on a personal scale, okay, there's an attachment between the mom and the child. Okay, babies need to have attachment. Now, on educational theory, there's a gentleman called Bowlby. So Bowlby has came out with a theory called Bowlby's attachment theory. You can find out about it, and they'll find that children with attachment to the mom or the dad will perform better later on in life. Okay, because they feel the sense of support and the sense of environment is there and the predictability is there. Okay, now also the other problem we have with children who do not have proper nutrition is they have stunted growth. Stunted growth just very simply means people who are shorter and smaller size. Okay, if you check out all the countries in the world, okay, stunted growth typically happens in the third world countries. Okay, now a very prominent example is North Korea. In North Korea, there's always a perpetual shortage of nutrition, of good food. So actually, I have been to North Korea myself, right? So it was on a holiday, right? So generally, by and large, you compare North Koreans and South Koreans, even though they are Koreans, right? North Koreans are visually so much shorter and smaller size than South Koreans. Okay, well, the reason is very simple. It is actually just purely for the fact that they do not have proper food. Okay, now some actually very interesting facts is breast milk actually improves the intelligence in infants. Okay, as much as we need to give interaction to develop neurons, but with the fact that we need food, you know, to build our bodies and to build our brains. Okay, so breast milk actually improves the brain development in infants. Now, fish oil also does for adults. Okay, babies who are breastfed show higher intelligence and quicker development than formula-fed babies. That means to say milk from a can, all right, or milk from powder, okay? Total and exclusive brand feeding, that means to say 100% breastfeeding, led to improved performance on intelligence tests at the age of 6. Okay, it's proven. Okay, by age 2, babies who are exclusively breastfed for at least 3 months has 20 to 30% more white matter in their brains. Okay, especially associated with language, emotional regulation, and connection. Okay, so what is white matter? Okay, white matter is something like wires. So imagine when you want to develop brain connections, you have neurons, right? So every time you learn something, a new neuron is formed. Okay, now white matter is basically the building blocks. That means it's basically all the wires that's in there. Okay, so you already have wires. Once you learn something, the wire becomes solid, right? It's a new experience. So white matter basically means a lot of your brain nerves, so to say. Okay, so some of the bad things that happen potentially is things like, when people get white matter disease. All right, white matter disease means their brains can't fully develop and they can't really learn more things. Okay. Okay. So for Miss Sarah, there's a question. Okay, so we're going to come to the end of this presentation in a while, so we'll get to your questions in a while. Okay. So now I'm going to share with you, I think this should be the final one, if I'm not wrong. Okay, the case study of a Epicenter project, a real person. Okay. Now, this person is called, before we get to that, right, as I mentioned before, in this project, they are still neurologically scanned. That means to say, right, these adults are literally, until today, I think they should be in the 40 over years old or 50s, right? So what happens is that every single year, if not once every few years, they still go back to the doctor for checkup, meaning to say they'll scan their entire body, they'll track the economic progress, and they also check their family wellness. Now, Kendra Alston is this lady who was in this Epicenter project. You can Google her. Okay, so the interesting thing is that herself and her mom changed forever as a result of this project. Okay, so her mom was always in a cycle of bad relationships. Her mom was divorced, got a new husband, divorced, got a new husband. Then after that, when the mom went through this project and put Kendra through this project, Kendra excelled. Okay, so now Kendra has a master's program. She owns a teacher's program, a training program, and she also works as a teacher. Okay, now as a result, they interviewed her mom. Her mom said as a result of this project, what happened was her life changed and Kendra's life also changed. All right, so she realized that because Kendra was smart and she was going to be good, and as a child, even as a baby, her mom realized that she needed to adjust her own life for the sake of her child, and that's what she did. Okay, and as a result, also when her child became successful, of course, she can give money to the mom, right? So which parent doesn't want that? We want our child to give us money so we can retire, so to say. Okay, so the thing is that whatever positive effects that has on a child, it actually has an effect on the parent also. Okay, her mom literally got out of poverty. Okay, so you can check on Kendra Alston. I'll try to see if I can find a link on the interview, okay, with her and her mom. Very, very interesting subject. Okay, now the interesting thing is that overall, okay, out of this project, what happens is generally the children who took quality childhood education, they scored 15 IQ points higher than predicted. That means to say the research people, Craig and his wife, right, actually set up a certain benchmark, but the children actually scored 15 points higher. Okay, they had higher income. They also had a higher age at the first child than expected. Okay, now the problem is that sometimes people who are not as educated, they have kids early. Okay, I'm not saying it as a generalization, but it is actually a statistic. Okay, people by and large who are more educated tend to hold off children until a later age. The reason is because they want to focus on the careers first. Okay, and also for every dollar that you invest based on this project, it turns out that when you get older as an adult, okay, the returns are 9 times back to society. If you invest $100,000 on a child, the child is able to bring back $900,000 later when they're an adult. Okay, so the fact is that actually, okay, that's all on this. Okay, that's all for the presentation. Okay, now so the summary is very simple. Okay, so let's go back to this again. Now, the summary is actually for quality childhood education and for specifically brain development, okay, these are the 4 factors that help, okay? A nurturing parent or a nurturing teacher, rich language, play that promotes learning, and also good nutrition, okay? Now, in summarizing, I would like to share a few things, yeah? So firstly is early childhood education teachers like yourself. I would say, honestly speaking, you have probably the biggest burden in society. All right. I would say more than probably the Prime Minister, because the Prime Minister himself also had to go through early childhood education, you know. So in that light, of course, sometimes society is a bit reverse, right? So they pay movie stars the highest amounts of salary, basketball stars or football stars who are supposed to entertain us the high amount of salaries. But I think actually preschool teachers by right should get should be the highest paid people in society, alongside with nurses, alongside with police and firemen also. All right. So now the takeaway I hope that is beneficial for you is to understand some very empirical, that means proven facts that actually help in brain development. Now, this slide is good for you. I hope it is something that you can use also in your school to share with your parents. I think it's also very beneficial for you to share with your parents so they become very mindful and understand that whatever they do has an effect on the child. Okay. Now, the fact is that you have to remember also, it is not 100% death sentence if, let's say, you haven't been doing that at all. Everything is reversible. Okay, if let's say there's a negative interaction for a child and the child has a bit of trauma, it is possible to reverse that. You just need consistent, intentional, and mindful interaction with the child every single day. All right, remember, neural connections will weaken and get lost if we don't use it, which is a good and a bad thing. Okay, that means to say we'll forget the bad. All right, the good thing also is consistently thereafter develop positive interaction, they will consistently remember it. Okay, that's why you can see adults who grow, they become successful. They always say things like, I remember not just my parent, but my teacher that changed my life. Okay, they always remember people who changed their life. The reason is very simple. Why? The fact is that these people develop values in their lives to teach them to be hardworking, to teach them not to give up and things like that. Okay, so you have very potentially very positive effect on the children that you have, and of course you have a good you have a very good responsibility, so to say, but I'm sure all of us are. That's why we are all here today to learn. Okay, so okay, at this point I've come to the end of our presentation. I hope it has been very useful to you. I hope it was very factual. Okay, other than Miss Sarah, do you have any questions? Okay, I'm just going to give you a 1 minute break if you need to drink water or anything like that. Okay, I'm going to drink a bit of water. Okay, so please feel free to type in your questions and also to share. If it's in Bahasa, it's okay, and then we will translate. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to give you a minute to type out your questions.
Ya, oke. Rekan-rekan bisa tulisin kalau ada pertanyaan dalam bahasa Indonesia, bahasa Inggris, terserah. Kita sambil 1 menit istirahat dulu bentar ya, karena tadi sudah mendengar banyak sekali penjelasan yang buat saya sangat-sangat beneficial ya. Ya, kita ada we got 2 questions so far, Mr. David.
Okay.
We can get into it once the 1 minute is over.
So, okay, so the first question is from Miss Sarah. Okay, you have a friend whose son or child or student does not talk. She follows instructions well, but never responds to questions. Okay, how do we as teachers build a positive engagement in the type of student, especially over online learning setting? Okay, so, okay, Miss Sarah, okay, the thing is this, yeah. So I'll share with you from my personal example. So remember I told you about my nephew. He's like very stressed from his grade 6 exams. And actually, when he was a child, when he was younger as a baby, he had problems talking. My sister had to bring him to visit a speech therapist actually, right? Because he doesn't like to talk. Okay, so he was this way probably until about grade 2. Okay, so until grade 2, he really didn't really talk, you know, and if he talked, he couldn't talk well. I think there was a problem with his brain development, right? But now he's okay. Now he's good. The thing is that during this period of time, we were very worried. I mean, I was also quite concerned, right? So the thing is that he could, same thing, he could respond to instruction and he could understand. But the problem is that he couldn't really respond because I think he felt very shy and very not confident about talking. Okay, now on an offline setting, what we did is we talked to the teachers, we get all the stakeholders involved, because you take a village to raise a child. We tell the teachers, we tell everybody. And when he does something right, we generally will encourage him. Okay, so because he knows that he has a deficiency, he knows that he has a problem, right? So everything that he does right, we'll encourage him. And then what we do is we do baby steps. So in terms of talking also, even though that time he was 6 years old, but we got him to do very simple reading. And that's why it is quite correct when we talk about high quality education is when it is individualized, it is intentional, and it's consistent, right? So individualized based on him, is intentional based on his existing ability, and it has to be consistent. Okay, Ms. Sarah, when you talk about online setting, right, I have to say I agree with a lot I'll say every single preschool teacher that actually online setting is a very, very tough environment for preschool kids. Okay, on the online setting, actually, we definitely have to get the parents involved. Okay, so on the online setting, the best thing we can do as preschool teachers is we still can teach general reading and learning to speak to a class, of course, right? Now, probably on the online setting, some of the tips we do is that we do in a flip way, meaning to say we get the kids to do more presentation. That means to say we get the kids to do reading, we get the kids to read passages and stories to us instead of us doing it to them. Okay, so the component out of 100%, most of the percentage of the class goes to kids reading to us. It might mean slower progress, but the fact is that we have to be very real to understand that in the online setting, the progress is slowed down. Okay, so my suggestion for your particular student, right, is definitely have to engage the parent, and then provide maybe like a learning timetable every week what to do, and then you have to share the parent over 1 year what is the thing that we're trying to achieve with the child. Okay, the fact is that our teaching is very, very limited because preschool kids, babies and toddlers, they learn from modeling, and modeling through the screen is very, very bad. I don't also agree because for the fact that I just don't think it's healthy at all for kids to look at screens. So actually I would say the responsibility lies with our parents. Okay, so my suggestion, as I can repeat again, is you can come with a plan and then tell the parent, please follow this timetable. I know you're working, but can you do it at night with your child? And then this is what we want to achieve at the end. So they know that there's an end goal. It's not just we're doing everything. Okay. Okay, from Ms. Jemima, all these things can help children become critical thinkers, risk takers, excellent and high cognitive students. Correct. That's exactly right. Okay, let's say we succeed in applying all this, and do you think how can we get them to be on the right track? Okay, that's absolutely correct. Okay, now what you're mentioning now is we're talking about two things, yeah. So critical thinking, risk-taking, high cognitive students, these are abilities, okay, and these are basically skill sets, I would say. Okay, now the other thing that we are talking about to prevent them from becoming a bad genius, those are values. Okay, so we have achievement, skill sets. If you do it correctly, of course you achieve, right? And then the other thing is values. Okay, now I have a friend actually in Singapore. Okay, so what he does is he runs a online gambling website. It is illegal. Okay, it's totally illegal. And then when I first know him, his name is called Han. I said, hey bro, a lot of people think that it's easy to make money from running a illegal online gambling website, but I was talking to him, right? Because I also have my own business. So I said, I understand it's difficult and you have stuff to manage. You got to develop your business. And the worst thing is the government is after you, but you still have to market your business. And then he told me, he said, yeah, you're right, bro. You're the first person to tell me that actually it's really running a business. And then you need to be able to think critically. You need to be able to take a risk also in running this business, right? Now, so the things that we need to develop values also. Okay, so in all education, other than critically thinking, risk-taking, and learning high cognitive, we need to build values inside the education. Okay, how do we build values inside education? Through socialization. Socialization is a great key to developing values. Okay, so what I mean socialization, that means to say you divide the class into groups and you have teamwork. Okay, and then you get the teams to develop projects together, just for the pure fact of developing projects and doing presentation. Now, it's very interesting, but humans in general will want to take ownership and make sure that they don't look bad, at least. Okay, so let me share with you one very simple example. Okay, we have this I share this example a lot of times. We have a school, junior and senior high school, we teach music. And then what we do is that the students are very uninterested because they are youth at risk, meaning to say that parents are in jail, parents are divorced and all that, so it's really just a massive headache, right? So handling these students, because they will shout back at us and they shout 4-letter words back at us. Can you imagine? Okay, these are students in Singapore. Okay, but of course we don't shout back at them, we encourage them. And what we do is that we teach them skill set, which is we teach them how to play guitar, how to play drums and all that. But we teach them values. Okay, so how do we teach them values? So we tell them, okay, kids, at the end of 6 months, you need to do a presentation and you need to play in front of a school. Okay, so you need to play the guitar, you need to play drums, and you need to play a song. That's your end game, and that's your skill you need to develop. Okay, how do we develop values? You're going to play the drums, James. John, you're going to play the guitar. Okay, then Jim, you're going to play the bass. Now, you have a choice. Okay, you're going to play it well and look good in front of school, or you're going to play it badly and then look like fools or clowns in front of school. So how does this value come in? Okay, so every week we practice, okay, and then the value comes in where we say, okay, very good. We encourage them. We say, you're very good. You play very well. Okay, I'm very proud for the fact that you all played as a team. I'm happy for you to develop them. So one of the values is a sense of pride. Okay, when you develop a sense of pride, we encourage them. Then the second value they will promote as a result of this pride is hard work. Okay, now the next week we meet again, one of them doesn't practice, so it looks very horrible. Then we tell him, look, do you practice or not? Then Jim says, yeah, I practice what? Then I tell him, look, come on, I've been teaching for 16, 17 years music, and you tell me you practice, I can tell whether you practice or not. And then we inculcate honesty, right? We say, Jim, you didn't practice, and be honest with it. Okay, and then we inculcate social values. That means ownership, and we say, look, Jim, if you don't practice, you're going to affect the rest of the team. Okay, as simple as that. Now, all this happens in a very social setting, all right? And then the teacher is the key. It is very, very important. So you build values, okay? And you build relationship with your students. Now, as I mentioned, this thing, the relationship with students, is the difference between being a good teacher and a great teacher, okay? Now, we have this thing called SYF in Singapore. It is, I run a guitar club in Singapore, right, last time, and we send them for competitions. Now, the interesting thing is that skill development is only, I would say, 30% component of winning a competition. The rest of the 70% is about relationship building. So we bring them for barbecues, we bring them for picnics, and we do things that's totally unrelated to playing guitar. Why? We want them to build a relationship with each other so they know once they're close with each other, whatever I'm doing wrong is going to affect my friend, right? So they will not do that. They'll make sure they will inculcate value. So these, I think the best way to inculcate values is through socialization, and the teacher has to be the medium, yeah? Okay, so next one from Mr. Riza, 21 years, okay. Okay, so at 21 months old, she shows some anxiety when it comes to going up and down the stairs, okay? So now I would say that to parents, yeah, if you're a parent yourself, because I was a parent myself, right? I mean, I'm a parent myself, not worse. As parents, we're always very scared, like, my child cannot walk, my child cannot talk, my child cannot do this or that, compared to other child. Okay, first step, my suggestion is we take away all the comparisons with other kids, okay? Now, the next thing is that if your child, even at 21 months old, all right, there are some things that they can't do, my suggestion is just relax and take it slow with them. It is really, really okay, all right? Now, the reason I'm saying this is because I experimented on my own son also, okay? And also seen my own nephew. My own nephew, up to at least grade 1 or 2, he couldn't even talk properly, okay? Now, me and my son, we are into rock climbing. We do a lot of rock climbing. My son now is 11 years old. My son can climb very well now. Okay. But when he was in grade 1, I forced him literally to do rock climbing because I thought he can do it. And when he couldn't do it, I was very stressed out. I was thinking, my God, I don't know what my son is good for. He can't play the drums because I can play music, right? He can't play piano. He's just not interested in anything at all. What can I do? So I was very stressed out. Now, based on education theory, like the Epicenter project, based on Piaget's cognitive theory, okay? Now, the general consensus is very simple. This is based on scientific research, okay? Not based on my advice, yeah? Get the child to explore as many things as possible, okay? Now, whether the child can perform or not, okay? Definitely you find something your child can do, right? Now, assuming your child can play basketball, for example, I can't think of any example, but play basketball, okay? And the rest the child can't do, it's okay. Don't get too stressed out for the fact that they feel a bit risk averse to other things, okay? Then focus on the basketball, for example. Now, the thing is that as much as you focus on the basketball, make it relaxed and fun for them, okay? And don't stress them out. Now, the key problem is that sometimes they are good at basketball, then we keep forcing them, okay, Monday to Sunday, go play basketball. I want you to be the national champion, all right? Because you're good, so just be good at it. Now, the problem is that we go to the other extreme where we force them to start to hate basketball. I've seen in our music school before where the child is very good with playing piano, but the parent keep forcing them to take exams. After 5-6 years, the child drops out. Okay. Now, as a parent, I have this problem myself because my son, okay, I'll honestly tell you objectively, right? He's like the top 5 probably in rock climbing in Singapore. He's very good with rock climbing. So I told the teacher last year, I said, can we put him on the national team? So it's me, the teacher, and my son. We are sitting together. And then my son's teacher is very, very sabah, very santai. So she's like, okay, Russell, do you want to join the national team? Then my son, of course, I'm there, right? So my son is like, so the teacher is very good. So the teacher said, okay, this is your desire to want to join. This is, you're not so sure. So is here or here? Then my son said, maybe about here. So the teacher looked at me and said, then we don't join the national team. It's okay, just let him enjoy the climb. Then I remember, oh yeah, he's supposed to enjoy this, So, Mr. Rizal, my advice also, even as a parent, right, not just a teacher, is don't worry whether your son or your daughter is very resilient or very strong. I understand what you're trying to say because that's what I try to develop my son also. Okay, you can develop it at a later stage. Okay, at this point, if she's 21 months, just let her enjoy and just play with her. I think that's important. Okay, if your child is given YouTube by grandma, yeah, that's true. Actually, it is a havoc. Actually, I know what you're saying. All right, so you need to develop the habit away. And as much as I hate to say, you have to take the gadget away, and just tell her permanently no more devices. Okay, so my son also is 11 years old. I would say maybe 60% of his classmates have handphones. I haven't even given him a handphone actually at this point. Yeah, so I think I'll probably give him a handphone only when he's like 14 or 15. That's all. Yeah, so I'm very, very straight about that. That's about. So as a result, actually what happens is now during meal times for my son, he always has a book and he reads. Okay. Sometimes it's quite annoying because we want to have a conversation when we talk, right? But it's also kind of like a habit we've developed with him. So he actually starts to read every time. Every time we go out, he'll bring about 2 or 3 books. Okay, so from Miss Keja, so he plays in band with the sing. Yeah. I have a student whose parents are busy and likely to give him gadget, and he plays independently with gadget. Yeah, we do have rules and consequences. Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, from Miss Keisha, right? Actually, my suggestion, as I mentioned, is that please feel free to take this PowerPoint and talk to all your parents. Okay, so as educators, right? For this online issue now, I mean, I'm doing education business. As much as we want to make money and sell programs, there are some programs that we don't sell at all because I feel that it's really bad if we do it on an online setting. Okay, so my suggestion is that we also get our parents involved. And my suggestion is for all of you teachers is have maybe 1 or 2 meetings with the parents and talk to them the importance of not having a gadget. Okay, so I understand that parents want convenience. Like actually, today is Saturday, right? I think Thursday night I visited my friend because my friend was going to give birth to a baby. When I went to her house, I was actually honestly very upset because she already has a daughter who's 3 years old, and the daughter is looking at the iPad, and there's two feeding the daughter, and then she's looking at the iPad. So I told her, look, I mean, you have 2 and then they're feeding your daughter. I know you have a lot of money, rich or whatever it is. Then get to at least put a book in front of your daughter rather than just looking at this iPad at the same time, right? And what the Mbak did was, after they finish one video, the Mbak will look for another video and show the daughter. I mean, seriously, it is really, really very bad brain development. It's just horrible, okay? So what I do is, I'm not trying to be self-righteous. I just went there and just take the iPad from them and say, don't do this anymore. Okay, so I think we need to develop a sense of importance for parents, right? So the importance has to outweigh the convenience, right? So worst case is your child bawls and cries or whatever, then never mind, let it be. It's okay. They have to learn. At the initial, yes, it will create hell. It's like hell on earth, you know. The child will start crying, no, I want to have this, I don't have the iPad, I want to have the gadget. But the child has to learn because we are the parents, we are the teachers. You know, it's not the child. Yeah, the child are here, they are here to learn from us. So we have to teach them, you know, even though it's painful, but we have to teach them. Okay. I have a lot of arguments with my son also before, and I tell him straight. I say, look, Russell, I don't care. I don't care what you think. I don't care what you feel, whether you want this or not. But the fact is that you're not going to have this, okay? And this is really for your own development. Okay. You will say thank you when you're older, and I'll say, oh, you're welcome right now. Okay, but I'm very straight about it, of course. Right. So we have to have a certain backbone, I would say, to parents, yeah, because parents problems now, they don't have so many children, they only have 1 or 2. So every parent to them, every child to them is like gold. It's like God to them, you know. So, but we have to understand, remember that we are parents and we are children. So my suggestion is get the parents involved, talk to the parents, okay, whether is it online or meeting them offline. Okay, yeah, that's all for me, Miss Irene.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. David. I really, really, really enjoy the sessions, and I'm sure all the participants here also, that's why they ask a lot of very good questions. So participants, can we give a really big round of applause? You can use the emoticon on the reaction, using the reaction on Zoom, or if you can turn on your camera and we can just give a clap,
thank you.
yeah, showing our appreciation for today's session. Yeah. So thank you once again, Mr. David, and teachers. We are towards the end of our session today. I would really encourage you, if you want to know more about and learn more and are curious about the program that Mr. David shared earlier in the beginning from the Teachers Academy, feel free to contact him. We will also share his email. Is it okay, Mr. David?
Yes, I'll type in my contact email as well as my WhatsApp. So, you know, if you want to contact me on WhatsApp, that's also
yes.
Okay.
Yes, we will share them with you, so you can go right away. Oh, it's there. I'm gonna copy it and then put it also in the summary that we are going to send you together with the PowerPoint. Yeah. All right. So thank you so much, teachers. Once again, thank you so much, Mr. David.
Thank you.
For sharing to us something that is very, very important, yeah, for us as teachers and parents to know. So we are going to end our session today. Kalau Bapak Ibu tidak berkeberatan, boleh nyalakan kameranya, and we are going to take a picture of us together just to make a digital memory, yeah, that we are learning about something important from Mr. David today. A lot of important insights. So if that is okay with you, you can turn on your camera, and then I'm going to take a picture of us all. Or maybe I could ask Danny, can you help me with that?
Okay, Miss.
Okay, sure. Alright, nanti Danny kasih kode ya, 1, 2, 3 gitu ya. Alright.
Bapak Ibu, rekan-rekan guru boleh menyalakan kameranya bagi yang bisa. Saya akan ambil, di sini kita punya 2 bagian untuk diambil, didokumentasikan. Jadi saya akan coba ambil slide yang pertama. Oke, Bapak Ibu boleh berikan senyum yang terbaik dalam hitungan 1, 2, 3. Oke, sebentar.
One more slide ya.
Yap, betul.
Oke.
Satu lagi, Miss. Oke, dalam hitungan 1, 2, 3. Oke, saya kembalikan ke Miss Irene.
Thank you so much, Mr. Danny, for helping me. Thank you once again, everyone. And we would love to hear your feedback about today's session. And we would love to hear what other topics that you might need in the future so that we can facilitate it to you. So please feel free to fill out the feedback form. Miss Sarah already sent it to you on the chat box. You can just click the link. And once again, let us give you can open your microphone, yeah, and say thank you right away to Mr. David. So let's give one more round of appreciation to Mr. David, and thank you to Mr. David for sharing with us today.
Thank you, teachers.
Thank you, Mr. David.
Thank you, Mr. David.
Thank you, Mr. David.
Thank
you, Mr. David.
Bless you.
Thank you.
God bless you.
All right. Okay, teachers, we hope you can access the feedback link before we end the Zoom meeting, because we will only send it to you here on the Zoom chat. Sudah bisa akses semuanya Bapak Ibu untuk feedback linknya?
Okay, thanks, Miss Irene. So I'll make my own
Thank you
first.
so much,
Thank you.
Mr. David.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Oke, ada yang punya kendala Bapak Ibu untuk akses? Sudah semua? Oke, terima kasih. Nanti kami akan kirimkan sertifikat rekaman notulen, I mean summary ya dari sesi tanya jawab tadi, yang jawaban dari Mr. David juga akan kami bagikan beserta kontaknya, dan materi dari Mr. David yang sudah ada translationnya kami akan bagikan juga kepada Bapak Ibu. Semoga sesi hari ini benar-benar bermanfaat bagi kita semua sebagai orang tua, calon orang tua, dan juga guru ya. Oke, sampai jumpa di kesempatan belajar bersama berikutnya Bapak Ibu.
Terima kasih. Thank you, Kak Irene.
Sama-sama. Hai Bu Ipet.
Thank you, Miss Erin. Bye-bye.
Sama-sama Bu. Bye semuanya.